Hello and welcome back to my channel. In today's video we are going to be talking about how to be a digital nomad in Iceland and the main things that I wish I had known before actually going to Iceland. I probably watched around 100 videos on YouTube before traveling to Iceland for my honeymoon and also to work as a digital nomad. And none of these videos talked about these things. So in today's video, I thought I would talk about these tips, these tricks that will save you a ton of money, a ton of time, and also just really help you to maximize your experience while you are in Iceland. But first, I wanted to introduce the sponsors of today's video, which is to like and subscribe, because there is no sponsor of today's video, as you may have gathered, given the fact that I have less than 70 subscribers. So if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you like what I'm talking about, please subscribe. It really supports the channel and it will inspire me to create more videos like this. All right, so let's get started. So I thought I would film this video while I am on one of my daily walks. So the first thing I wanted to talk about actually is the weather in Iceland. So I initially was thinking of filming this video while we were in Iceland while I was on a walk, but that would not have been possible because the wind in Iceland is intense. It's very, very intense. So it's not really feasible to do any phone calls or anything kind of important outside. Now, the weather when we were there, actually we did have a few really, really nice sunny days, but most of the time it's very, very windy. So it's not really possible to kind of sit outside that much, work outside that much. It's fine if you're eating or something, but that's just something to bear in mind. The very first thing is really the weather in Iceland. The second thing about the weather, just to mention, is that I did a lot of research about the weather in Iceland, and pretty much everywhere it said if you're traveling in July, it's not really that cold. It's around 10 to 15 degrees centigrade. Well, that could not have been further from the truth. When we were in Iceland, the actual weather ranged from 2 degrees in the north, so 2 degrees centigrade, to around 25 to 27 degrees in the south. So you need to pack kind of for all seasons, basically. So pack for all seasons, pack warm gear like coats, jackets, and in particular, stuff that protects you from the wind. So it's very, very windy in Iceland, like so windy that you can barely walk sometimes. So bring a hat that will protect you from the wind, windbreaker jackets, layers, things like that. That should kind of do you really well. If you're interested in knowing more about what to pack, you can check out my packing video here, which goes a lot more into depth about what we packed specifically for Iceland. So the second thing I really, really wish that I had known about Iceland before going is the internet. So I actually had 1 week off, kind of a vacation when we were on our honeymoon. So that's when we did the ring road. If you want to watch that video, linking it here, where we kind of talk about our whole vlog and our experience. And then the second week we stayed in Reykjavik. I would not recommend that you do that for several reasons. So if I'd known this before, it would have saved me so much money and also really made my experience so much better. Don't get me wrong, the experience was amazing, but this would have just made my experience so much better. It's actually that when you rent a vehicle like a car or a van, when you're in Iceland, you can actually rent an internet kind of 3G dongle thing. And actually the connection pretty much everywhere in the entire country is really, really good. In fact, it's better than a lot of places in the city centre in Reykjavik. The connection speed is actually really great. It's good enough to do Zoom calls. It's good enough to stream HD video. We were in the van watching Netflix. In the evening, we were doing Zoom calls. I was watching videos while we were driving, listening to podcasts. So we could have actually just rented the van for 2 weeks and worked from the van and just had this internet dongle, which cost us like 40 quid for the entire week, rather than having to rent an expensive Airbnb in Reykjavik. So that's just one thing I would really mention, is if you want to do a road trip in Iceland, but you're worried about whether or not you're going to be able to work on the road, it's totally fine. In fact, there's actually only 2 spots in the whole country that I found that there was a black spot, which I'm going to mark them actually on the map here so that you can see. So those are pretty much the only 2 spots where we noticed that the internet just like wasn't that good, or like completely cut out. But if you're someone who kind of works online but not with tons of Zoom calls, or you're someone who just like doesn't need really fast internet, honestly, it's totally fine on the road. So if you're really wanting to experience real Iceland, have really like a nice road trip experience, I honestly would just recommend to book a van for 2 weeks and to have one of these dongles so that you can really explore properly. So how long would you need to really stay in Iceland to fully experience the country, the place, to kind of really see the main things? Now, in honesty, the answer to this question will really depend on your budget, and I'm actually going to be making an entire other video on budget, which I'm going to be posting next week. So subscribe if you're not already, put the notification bell on so that you can be notified of that video coming out next week. But if you have, say, an unlimited budget and you're wanting to be a digital nomad in Iceland, I think, to be honest, 3 weeks would be a good amount of time to spend there. But that's going to cost you a pretty penny, because Iceland is honestly one of the most, if not the most expensive place that I've ever stayed in and worked in as a digital nomad. If you're very limited in terms of time, I think the absolute minimum, if you have to work as well in between, would be 10 days. 10 days would be really the minimum to do the full ring road. If you're looking to stay for less, then you won't be able to do the full ring road. All right, so now for the second part of this video, I'm just going to take you through what would be the absolute top best of the best places that you have to see in Iceland, and how do I see that playing out if you need to work and say you're doing your 10-day trip, if that's all you can manage. This is kind of what I would see and how it would play out. All right, so here we've got our map of Iceland. So here are the places that I think would be the best places to visit. So obviously, most likely you're going to be flying into Keflavik Airport, which is here. Pretty much, I think all the international flights fly into Keflavik. So here you can see this is all the Golden Circle. Now, if you're only in Iceland for a couple of days, Golden Circle is great, but there's just way more cool things that are around the country that I would recommend that you see instead. Okay, so first and foremost, there is a really amazing waterfall called Benifoss, which is here. Okay, this is a really amazing. Now, not that this waterfall is that massive or anything like that. I just think this is a really nice way to experience what it's like to be in authentic Iceland if you were to actually wander out to a waterfall that's just in a field. And this is what I feel that Iceland would have been back in the day before it became super touristy. We had a really nice walk to Benifoss. Also, if you're looking to kind of stay somewhere that's relaxed and chill, this area has a lot of cool things to see. So that's really one of the highlights. Then we did see some things along here. Honestly, for me, it wasn't like, wow, this is so amazing. But the other thing that I thought was absolutely amazing was Dettifoss. Honestly, Dettifoss was literally one of the highlights of our trip. It is the most powerful waterfall in Europe, and it's just, when you go there, you just feel the power of the water cascading down, and honestly, it's an amazing place to be. Now, staying in the north, like I mentioned earlier in the video, it's pretty cold in the north of Iceland. It was between 2 and 5 degrees the entire time we were there, so make sure that you get bundled up, that you bring appropriate clothing for there. If you're interested in checking out my packing video on what we brought, you can check that out here. The other place is Mývatn Nature Baths. This is kind of like a hot springs, and honestly, I thought this was a nicer experience than going to the Blue Lagoon, and it's like half the price. So if you're looking for more of an, just I think a better experience and for literally half the price, I think this is a really great place to check out. And there's loads of just, easy places to park, easy campsites that you can stay around here that are really nice and affordable. So I would recommend, if you're needing to work, this would be a good place to just stay a couple of days. There's another waterfall called Godafoss, which is located close to here as well, which I think is a really nice place to check out. This is Godafoss, which we thought was really, really beautiful, and we had a really, really great time there. And it also has a nice place where you can kind of get your steps in if you're looking to kind of get a nice walk. It's a lovely spot to check out in the north. So there are loads of places in the north, like Husavik is really one of the best places apparently in the world to do whale watching. So one pro tip here is that we actually booked originally a whale watching tour in Husavik, but it got cancelled due to poor weather conditions. And that happens pretty frequently. So if you're really, really stuck on having to do a tour in Husavik, I would make sure that you stay a few days in the area so that you can really check it out. Studlagill, I think that's how you pronounce it, canyon. This was an amazing experience. Honestly, it was really one of the highlights of the trip. We had a really, really nice hike. It's really a lot of fun. But just to mention, if you're being a digital nomad, this area in Iceland has pretty poor connection when it comes to like 3G, 4G, so 5G or whatever. If you're looking to really work in this area, this would not be the place where I would say is good for working. The internet's pretty spotty. Up until this point, it was pretty good. The other place that I would really recommend you check out is Hengifoss. Hengifoss was honestly really cool. I mean, it reminds me of kind of this waterfall from Game of Thrones. The hike up is really pleasant. You get to see another waterfall, which I think is called Litlifoss. It's a bit more touristy, so there are definitely a lot better paths. But yeah, it's just really pleasant, fun kind of experience. And it's got a little coffee kind of truck in the parking. So if you're looking to stop for coffee or something like that, that would be really, really good. So coming down here, we didn't really check out most places here just because we didn't really have the time. They might be totally amazing. It's just that, our plan was to do the entire ring road in 7 days. And if you have to work, I think you probably wouldn't be able to do much more than what we did just because of needing to work full time or part time or whatever you do personally. We stayed a night in Hoffen. Hoffen was really nice. Now, the only reason we stayed there was just because it was a place to stay, and we went to this really nice restaurant called Pacus. It was quite expensive. So, I mean, if you haven't been eating out for ages and you've been eating out of the van, it's a nice place to eat. But honestly, I wouldn't say you have to go to Hoffen. Then where was the other place? Oh yeah, Diamond Beach. Diamond Beach was epic. We also went to the Jökulsárlón glacier lagoon and saw this. This is just a really nice experience, and the Wi-Fi is really good here. So if you're parking somewhere close in the area, that's a good place to stop, do a few Zoom calls. One thing to mention about this area is that the parking at the Diamond Beach is paid. So just bear that in mind, is that you would need to pay for parking. Not all of the attractions have paid parkings, but some of them do. So what we did here at Fjallsokul was we did our glacier kayaking. This is an experience I would highly recommend. We went with these really great guides, not sponsored at all, but I'm going to just link them in the description in case you're interested in checking out that experience, because it was honestly amazing and they were amazing. So that was really, really good. And then this, like, okay, if you just only have a few things that you can see, Dettifoss, Moljagjufur Canyon, I'm probably pronouncing that wrong. This was like literally, I think, my favorite experience of the entire trip. The hike is pretty gnarly, guys, okay? I don't know how long it was in total. I think maybe around 8 or 9k the entire hike, but it was gnarly. Like it was gnarly AF. Like it's uphill the whole way up, and then it's downhill the whole way down, which is nice, but just prepare to have a proper workout. But the views are just absolutely spectacular. We stayed in this campsite, which is good if you're looking for just a place where you can stop and work for a few days. This is definitely a really good spot with good Wi-Fi and just good amenities for that as well. But the one other place that I thought was really epic was, and this is actually in the Golden Circle, was this hot spring. So Hrunalug hot spring. This hot spring was built in the 1800s, and it's just a really authentic, real experience of, I guess, what hot tubs used to be, or, you know, what kind of the hot springs used to be back in the day. And honestly, it was such a lovely experience. We had a great time. And then the last place that I really wanted to recommend, yeah, this place. Okay, so as you can see, I'm pretty into waterfalls and hot springs, but I mean, that's basically, Iceland is known for volcanoes, waterfalls, and hot springs. There was actually a volcano that erupted while we were in Iceland, funnily enough, but we weren't able to go see it because the area was unsafe. But, you know, if you're in Iceland, you can see a volcano. Plan for that, hey. But this is the hot spring thermal river. It's Reykjadulur, and this was really, really nice. Now this hike again is really pretty gnarly. We were there and the wind is super, super intense. It was so intense that we could hardly walk. It's about an hour from Reykjavik, I think the drive was. So it's kind of like a day trip. It's definitely worth it, I feel, for the experience, but it's pretty intense. So just make sure you're prepared for that. So those are the main places I would really recommend. And now we're going to just get back to the rest of the video. One thing to mention, now I know just a bit earlier in the video, I kind of talked about actually where are the top places. As you might see, for us, really the highlights were kind of in the north, actually north, and then a bit in the south, but southeast. The south kind of near Reykjavik and the Golden Circle. Like if you're only able to come for a weekend or any stay for a few days, then sure, the Golden Circle is lovely. But honestly, the stuff that we saw around Iceland in those places was far, far superior. And that's something that I don't really see that many people recommending. But honestly, the places in the north that we mentioned, in the south that we mentioned, that are a bit further away are just far superior, and they're just more like less fabricated, less touristy. Again, if you kind of want to see a bit more about this experience, you can check out this video. But I just honestly would really recommend that if you can, do the full ring road and just spend more time in the north and in the southeast. That's really where the beauty lies, in my opinion, in my experience. Oh God, side note, if I sound a bit out of breath, it's actually kind of difficult to walk and talk at the same time. I see a lot of these videos, I don't know how they walk uphill and record a video without being out of breath. So if you know that, let me know. But I hope you found this video helpful. I hope you enjoyed it. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and if you go to Iceland and you follow some of my recommendations, do let me know in the comments. I hope you guys have an amazing day.